time for Mac Geek Gab, and listener Mike brings us our quick tip of the week. Mike, take it away.
Hi, Dave and John. It's Mike calling you from Wake Forest, North Carolina. Walking back to my car from the supermarket where I always use Apple Pay. And it's getting cold here. And I frequently would pull up my sleeve and look at my watch and double tap the side button, get my card ready. And I've decided that's too much. So I can reach under my sleeve, double tap the button. I know what my default card is, and I lean my sleeve against the reader, and it worked just fine. I know there's a distance thing for the NFC, but through my sweatshirt, worked great. Happy holidays.
That's a great tip. More tips like that, plus your questions answered today on Mac Geek Gab 961 for Monday, December 26th, 2022. Folks, and welcome to Mac Geek Gab, the show where you send in tips like that, questions, cool stuff found. We try to answer your questions. We share your tips. We share your cool stuff found. The goal is we link it together into an agenda so that each of us learns at least 5 new things every single time we get together. Sponsors for this episode include Factor. We're at go.factor75.com/MGG60. Man, just visit macgeekgab.com. We'll get you that link. That's where you can go to get these fantastic, never frozen meals ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes. 2 minutes? 2 minutes. Get 60% off your first box. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. And also Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/MGG. Seriously, it could save you hundreds per year canceling all those things you didn't know you had. For now, here in the bunker, the generator-powered bunker in Durham, New Hampshire, I'm Dave Hamilton.
And here, where things are pretty much normal, we got a little rain, little wind. Knocked over one of my trash cans. That was the biggest casualty, and a branch came down. But here in Fairfield, Connecticut, this is John F. Braun.
And here, just about 3 miles from Dave in Lee, New Hampshire, where the power's been on all day. Sorry, Dave, had to rub it in a little bit. It's Pilot Pete, and may I say to the folks watching us on the live stream, happy Festivus.
Oh, yes.
To those listening, the day the show drops, happy Boxing Day. Hope you had a pleasant Christmas.
There you go.
And or whatever you celebrate.
Yes, of course. Yes. And I didn't mean to cut you off there, Pete. I thought you had finished, but I wanted to make sure that if you are watching the live stream, or even if not, you could wish Pete a happy or belated happy birthday here on Festivus the 23rd. Thanks for joining us on your birthday, Pete. This is great.
It's good to be here. I've officially reached geezer status.
So I want to add to the Apple Watch tip. I learned this when I first got my Apple Watch. And the person at the store that I went to was like, hold it down. And that it doesn't work very well if the watch is facing up because it has to go through your arm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I thought you were just yelling at her. Hold it down over there.
That worked. Well, that's right. Hold it down, Mr. Braun. That would work. That's good to know with Mike's tip. Yeah, you're right, because if you're going to do it through close, you want to have it as close.
And if you're on an iPhone, typically the best spot is the top rear of the phone when you're hovering it near the sensor. I've learned that as well.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I've found that too. Yeah, yeah, man. It's we'll see how long we can do with the show. It seems fairly stable right now. This is the day, the big rain/wind/heat storm. It's like 55 degrees as we're recording this on Friday the 23rd in the day. By tonight, it's supposed to be down into like the 20s, which is crazy. But we lost power at about 4:30 or something a.m., and it came back at 8 a.m. And then we tried to record the show at about 10 a.m., And that's when the power started flickering, which I thought we might be able to ride through. I was wrong. And then the power just went out again at, I don't know, somewhere probably close to 11. And it's been out for a couple of hours now that we're recording. So I am fully on generated power. Clearly my internet connection is still solid. Knocking on the wood to make sure that we don't screw that up. But yeah, we've got a standby generator at the house that kicks on automatically. And then here in the office/studio, I'm running, it's a portable generator that hooks up via a Gentran box to the circuit panel and runs everything.
I think the technical term for the pre-show machinations which we experienced was goat rope, goat stoop.
It was a goat rodeo for sure. Yeah. All right. Well,
we're here now. Let's
not linger too long because we don't know how long we actually have.
None of us do.
None of us. Well, isn't that the truth? Yeah. Boy, howdy. Wow. John just took it right to the serious. I like it. All right. You want to take us to listener Tim, and let's do some quick tips. We promised them some quick tips, and by golly, even if we have to use gasoline to power this show, we're going to give them quick tips.
So Tim has not one, but two quick tips, and we'll make these quick, I think. So Tim says, just found a few items you can add to your Spotlight reference folder. I don't have one of those, but attached is Apple's official support article for keyboard shortcuts specific to Spotlight. Attached are two screenshots from the interwebs. Live flight tracking direct from Spotlight? Just punch in the flight number into the Spotlight search box. I never knew this. Screenshot attached breaks it down with all the info. And I confirm this. It'll also do this if you're in Safari. Or I'm sorry. Yeah, in Safari, if you type in a flight number, it'll also do this matching thing. So that's kind of cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I actually looked up one of my flights. I didn't realize the complexity, but I punched in actually one of my two flights for when we're going to all party in Vegas, or, well, maybe not. We have to work a little bit. But it found my flight. And I'm like, cool. It found one of my flights. I think I typed in Delta, whatever it is. And it's like, yep, here it is. So get ready. Number two. There's another tip. I kind of like this rambling here. There's another tip on the other screenshot, but I already forgot what it was. But I do remember it was worth taking a screenshot, but not awesome enough for me to stop typing and
so
go
no
to
one
the Photos
sees the
app.
screenshot, not even the people on the video stream. So make sure let's describe what's going on here.
Here's the tip. Basically condensing it. If you match something in Spotlight, if you hold down the command key, it'll show you the path to the file. So that's handy. And I've done that in the past. Yeah, I think I was in Spotlight. I don't know why. And I think it was, I think a lot of these quick tips are finger fumbles. Is like you hit the wrong key at the wrong time, but you hit it, and then it's like, oh, that's useful.
For sure. Yeah. Good stuff. Speaking of keyboard quick tips, listener Alex S. shared in our Discord at macgeekgab.com/Discord, issue a command tab, continue holding the command key down, and immediately issue a command 1. So you're holding down command, and then you just move one of your fingers from tab to 1. If you have multiple apps open and multiple windows for at least some of those apps, it will start to show you the windows for those apps. It's a very cool thing. It's called Apple calls it application windows. I call it show me the windows mode because you can scroll through and see the windows of the apps that you're going to be choosing. It's really cool.
I just found even more, Dave.
Amazing.
More. There's more.
But so wait, there's less.
I held down command, I hit tab, and then if you go to 1, it takes you back to the first of those windows. But if you hold down, touch the number 6 while holding the command key, it takes you to the 6th window.
What?
You can go directly there. I mean, obviously, it's probably faster just hit, depending how many windows you got open.
Sure.
I've got 9, but I can hit 9. It takes me to the 9th.
Amazing. That's cool.
Never even. Yeah.
I love it.
All this and more.
John, more.
We got more from Jim. and I verified this, believe it or not. Hello, John, Dave, and Pete. I very much enjoy your podcast. Thank you. Sometimes I stumble across something obvious and wonder how or why I was not previously aware of it. I have an Apple Magic Keyboard on my iPad Pro 11-inch. I was aware that, similar to the Mac, you could use Command-Tab to display the list of running apps and switch between them, which I've never tried before. I was also aware that if, when continuing to hold the Command key, typing Q would quit the selected app. Okay. While I don't routinely quit apps on the iPad, if for some reason I wanted to quit the app I was just using, my previous technique was to type Command-Tab, then Command-Dot? Or Command-Dash?
Command-Dot. He's just saying Command period. Command period, which is shortcut for cancel, by the way. Command period is yeah. He's just putting the dash in there when you're reading.
Oh, wait, so no, there's a squiggly next to it. Okay, got it.
Yeah, read it without the dash. Yeah.
Then while continuing to hold the Command key, type Q to quit. However, I recently discovered that this wasn't necessary. Command W will quit any app immediately. I was also aware that holding down the Command key will bring up a menu of available shortcuts in any app, so I checked this to see if this newly discovered quit or close command was listed as an option. It was not. I also made a quick Google search for quit apps on iPad. Nada. Don't feel so bad now. Wonder if this might be a new feature. I don't know why Apple would choose to use Command Q on the Mac and Command W on the iPad. If I consider it as closing a window on the iPad rather than quitting the app, I guess it makes more sense.
Yeah. I think that's the key there, is that you're never really quitting the apps. You're just closing the windows. And once you close the last one, which with most apps, there's only one, away it goes.
Right. I mean, the eye-opener to me is that I've never paired a keyboard with my iPad until I was invigorated by this tip, and I'm like, yeah, let me see if this works. The iPad and iOS are really weird, though, is that a lot of external devices, they don't show up in settings unless you activate them, if you know what I'm saying. Like one time I was like, can I plug an Ethernet adapter into my iPad? It's like, let's find out. And I did, a USB-C Ethernet adapter, and all of a sudden Ethernet showed up in settings where it did not before.
And you didn't need to activate it. It just was there, right?
Yeah, I just don't know how I feel about the settings not being there unless you have the hardware plugged in. Though I guess it kind of makes sense.
Same on the Mac. You don't see an Ethernet port if you don't have an Ethernet port.
Yeah.
Well, it's still listed, though, in the network settings, though.
No, it's not.
Okay.
Not if you don't have one. Yeah, if you've got just a laptop with no Ethernet port, it's not there. Yeah. Yeah, it's only listing the hardware it sees until it... But if you were to plug in like a USB Ethernet adapter or a Thunderbolt Ethernet adapter to your Mac, that would appear just magically in the list. It's the same functionality. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Pete, you did you have something to add to that?
Well, I was going to. I was a little confused there. Somehow I missed that it was the iPad he was talking about. So I'm doing the. I hope my sister isn't listening. She's getting a new iPad case with a keyboard built in. So I'll be able to play with some of those here day after tomorrow. But see how it goes. And then I would just remind people that I know we've talked about this before, but if you go up to the menu on any program that you're looking at and pull down File or Edit, or if you any of those pull down menus, look at the command and then look to the right and you'll see, Command C, copy, Command W, close the window. So those keyboard commands are there. And once you start using those
on the Mac,
really
they're there.
Flying. On the Mac. Yeah, I don't think they're there on the iPad.
Right. Yeah. I just wanted to make sure, because it did get a little confusing in there.
But they sometimes they translate over, obviously, like, Command W, you're closing the window.
So last week, I told everybody correctly, I believe, that the Mac Geek Gab calendar is far more reliable to subscribe to now, and I explained why. It's at macgeekgab.com/calendar. If you want the backstory, go listen to 960. Pete, as always, found what he thought was a hole in our plan, but really it was just a setting that Pete had somehow set. You clicked on the calendar link, Pete, and it would not launch your calendar app.
No. And we have no idea how this setting got set.
It was launching Brave browser for you.
Yeah,
so how did you explain to the listeners here how you went to check what your default calendar app is, please?
Okay, so just so we're clear, we did state a few minutes ago that I have officially reached geezer status.
That's only today, Pete.
Was
Last week you weren't. That's
so
right.
as I recall, we launched Calendar.
Yeah, it's in the show notes. I actually put it in the show notes
So
for everybody.
Okay, I'll go back to that too. We launched Calendar, and then it was preferences.
Correct.
And, came up with default calendar, and it listed Brave, the Brave browser. Somehow, how that managed to hijack that? Never say hijack to a pilot. Just
wow. Hey, it was
Airplane.
the pilot who said it. There
Airplane.
you go. Yeah.
Hi, Jack. Yeah. Sorry.
So, we changed it back to Calendar, and lo and behold, it all worked. So if you're clicking on that link and it's taking you to a browser, go into Calendar, go into Preferences, and find out what your default calendar is.
Yeah, and it is right there. It's on the General tab in Preferences, which should be the first one that comes up. And Pete's right. Yeah, it's default calendar app. Awesome. John, take us to Barry. More quick tips than you can shake a stick at.
Don't you shake your stick at me. All right. Barry has a quick one, but this could be like peeling an onion. If you activate Advanced Data Protection and you want to download older Mac OSs, it will not let you. I had a laptop crash and I needed to install Catalina. The App Store would not allow it. So I had to turn it off, and I am now downloading the software. If this works, I will turn it back on once the laptop is back up and running. The requirement for all devices to be on Ventura is very limiting. All right. So you may ask yourself, not only how do I work this, but what is Advanced Data Protection? I'm still trying to figure it out, Dave. And it actually kind of concerns me. So we'll link to this article here. It's called How to Turn on Advanced Data Protection for iCloud. And apparently, although from what I can tell, if I had to encapsulate this, I believe what they're saying is that the data is going to be not only encrypted point to point, but will also be encrypted on the device. I think that's what this is. Could you chime in on this, gentlemen? If you've even looked into this.
Yeah, well, it's encrypted on Apple servers with your key, as opposed to encrypted on Apple servers with their key.
Okay.
So they don't have the ability to decrypt it unless you're using one of your devices. That and hopefully somebody in the chat will correct us if we're still wrong about this. But yeah, ADP, Advanced Data Protection, seems to be causing a lot of problems. I will just say that Ventura, I just installed Ventura. I updated to Ventura on the machine here in the studio. And yeah. I know I'm on generated power today, so everything is a little bit wonky. But even last night when I was testing things here, Ventura is like, all my stuff works. But like, for example, we use Chrome and StreamYard to do our stream, what we're doing here, for the audio and the video. And it has worked flawlessly for months on the prior OS, Monterey. And then today on Ventura, if I broadcast it 1080p, I get all kinds of like hiccups and core audio goes out of whack. And I don't know about Ventura. I thought it was going to be okay. I'm not convinced about it. I'm going to give it a little bit and see. But Brian Monroe in our pre-show chat, we were talking about, I was sharing the issues and finally figured out that 720 would work for me, and that was great. He says macOS Ventura feels a bit like Apple's Vista. Oh, I have to say that's feeling accurate to me in this moment. I reserve the right to change my mind, but
Vista was mostly, from what I recall, eye candy, and it upset a lot of people because their computers were too wimpy to handle it, and they were like, "Oh, well, we think that people want more eye candy rather than actual functionality." So that was my take on Vista.
Yeah. So I don't know.
I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for Vista.
Oh.
Oh, is that what brought you to the Mac?
That's why I switched, yeah.
Wow. Yeah. What, because it was so horrible?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So my advice, and several people in the chat room are echoing this, don't turn on Advanced Data Protection yet. Let's let other people be the test cases on this, because I think that's probably best. I don't know. It just seems like there is good news, though, in terms of iCloud. Lawyer Jeff shares with us that you can now, he stumbled into this and he's correct. You can now buy additional iCloud storage for your Apple One plan. So like in the past, if I picked the 2 terabyte Apple One plan, that was it. Like that was the maximum storage I would get for my family of up to 6. Now I can, for $10, $9.99 US dollars per month, I can add another 2 terabytes for a total of 4. I could also add just 50 gigs for 99 cents a month, 200 gigs for $2.99 a month. And so you can mix and match here, but it's good to know that like there is a way. I mean, if you've got even 4 people that are like heavily using iCloud photo library with, decades plus of photos, and then also using iCloud, documents syncing for their entirety of their documents folders, like you could hit those 2 terabytes. So thanks for that heads up, Lawyer Jeff. I'm glad you stumbled into it, and especially glad that you shared it with us. So.
Yeah, I was a bit confused when I read this because I'm like, well, I can do the same thing, but I don't have the enhanced program. I just have the regular.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So the Apple One plans offer a baseline that is usually pretty good depending on how much you pay, right?
Yeah. I mean, I choose to pay for the plan with 2 terabytes, but when that plan came out, that was it. And now, and I don't know when they turned this on, but Lawyer Jeff stumbled onto it, I don't know, sometime in the last couple of months. And now we're finally getting to the quick tips. So we get to share it. Yeah, good stuff. In last week's episode 960, we shared a cool stuff found about a new Apple remote that one of the listeners, one of you, pointed out to us that was a buttons-only remote because they didn't really like the scrubbing control. Well, listener Carl points out that you can disable the scrubbing feature on the remote. Go into settings on your Apple TV, remotes and devices, ClickPad, and select click only. This will remove scrubbing and scrolling features that make the buttons and then just make the buttons into regular buttons, the directional and center select and enter buttons. So yeah, thanks for that heads up, Carl. That's good to know. So you don't have to buy a new remote if you don't like the scrubbing, if that's driving you crazy. And I can see where that would drive people crazy. If it's like not in your hands that swiping your finger across that pad is going to start to scrub, it can be jarring at best. So
I just got to say, Dave, that at least in my humble opinion, Apple has not done well when it comes to input devices. I don't know.
Really?
I've never been crazy about any of the remotes for the Apple TV. There was just something that just didn't feel right about them, or they added something that I don't need. Like, why do I need Siri on my remote? I don't know.
I really, the first gen Apple TV remote, the one that if you didn't put it in like a rubber case, it would just smash the first time it dropped. I was not a fan of that one, but I really like the current one. That's what. We have a Harmony remote in the living room, but if we're using the Apple TV, and the Harmony remote will use it'll control the Apple TV. It's all fine. But I like 99% of the time I grab the Apple TV remote, the silver one. I really like the Siri remote. It feels good in the hand. And as far as input devices go, Apple's Magic Trackpad. Oh man, like that's
I've used it and I'm okay with this though. What we have to put in the Hall of Shame, Dave, is the round mouse on the first iMacs. That, obviously, to me, was just a UI UX nightmare. It's like, hey, let's give you a device where you can't tell which direction it's facing, so you don't know what to do.
You're not wrong. No, it's true. It's like, yeah. You want to be confused? Here's this. Thank goodness it wasn't a wireless round mouse. Like that would have really... That would have been it, man.
Well, there you go.
Right? At least because you could feel where the cord was and know where north was, at least. Yeah.
Right. Oh, man. The Paul France pointed out in the Discord chat that he likes the Siri remote, as do I. When you, instead of having to scroll across the entire gosh darn alphabet to spell out Amazon, for instance.
Yeah.
You just press and hold the little button and say what you're looking for, and it makes the searches so much faster. So that's what I like it for. The one thing it doesn't do for me, and I've never even pursued it, but the mute button doesn't work. I can turn the volume up and the volume down, but I have the TP-Link sound to my Sonos soundbar. But when I hit the mute button, it doesn't work on the.
You should try. I hate to say should. My advice: try reconfiguring. Like, go into the settings for the remote on your Apple TV, and there's a place where you can configure the mute button, and it will do it for you.
Good plan. I'll do that.
Yeah.
Just like finding out you could reset that remote. Couple weeks
yes,
back.
that's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because I just had to do it. We moved our old 4K Apple TV downstairs, and I had to like redo that. So but I agree with you. The whole using Siri to spell things out or just to say words, like
Search
watch
for a show or a movie or
watch White Lotus, and you're good to go. By the way, we watched the first episode of White Lotus last night. I'm gonna watch the second one but I don't even understand what this show's about. I don't understand why I'm supposed to care about this show, but everybody seems to have lost their minds about it. So I'm assuming there's something there, but I got to warn you, watch your eyes, shield your eyes when you watch the first episode. That's all I'm going to say.
There you go.
Yeah. Have either of you watched White Lotus?
I have not.
Okay.
No, that's HBO, right? I don't have
It is.
HBO.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm watching some other things. Watch Wednesday. Wednesday is very good.
My daughter highly recommended that I do that. I haven't seen it. I hear it's great.
Is that the spinoff or the Addams Family Wednesday? Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of good stuff. Also, Brian says in our chat room, and I agree with him, another UI UX fumble is the magic mouse. In that, gee, where should we put the recharging port? Oh, let's put it on the bottom. I'm like, who even approved this?
Right? No,
it's like, couldn't you put it on the side so like somebody could use it while it's charging? Nope.
Oh no, John. I will say the Magic Trackpad has that. Like that.
Right.
It does. So they got it right there. They just didn't get it right on the mouse itself. If your New Year's goals are to manage your budget better and save money, you need Rocket Money. Rocket Money, formerly known as Truebill, is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills all in one place. Over 80% of people have subscriptions they've forgotten about. Things like that streaming service you bought to just watch one show on, or that free trial that you never even used. Rocket Money will quickly and easily identify your subscriptions for you so you can stop paying for the ones you don't want. And Rocket Money makes canceling subscriptions as easy as the click of a button. I've done this. It's amazing. Simply find the subscription that you don't want and press cancel. Rocket Money will cancel it for you right there. No more long hold times with customer service or tedious emailing back and forth. I just had a Wall Street Journal subscription that we had with the Mac Observer, but I had to cancel it earlier this year because we don't have the site anymore. I don't use it anymore. They made it like I went through on their website and they wanted me to call and do this. Nope. Rocket Money to the rescue. Super easy. And it's not just me. Over 3 million people have used Rocket Money, saving the average person up to $720 a year. Stop throwing your money away. Cancel unwanted subscriptions and manage your expenses the easy way by going to rocketmoney.com/MGG. That's rocketmoney.com/MGG. rocketmoney.com/MGG. And our thanks to Rocket Money for sponsoring this episode. Well, here we are. We're in the thick of all these holidays, and ready-to-eat meal delivery can lend a helping hand. Factor, our sponsor here, shops, preps, cooks, and delivers to your door so you can enjoy chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals during the holidays, minus the hassle. Plus, with 34 meals per week, including Gourmet Plus, Keto, Calorie Smart, Vegan and Veggie, and 36 plus weekly add-ons, you'll have plenty of nutritious, flavorful options to choose from. Our holidays are already jam-packed here. Luckily, Factor's fresh, never frozen meals make it easy to fuel up fast when we're on the go. And I can save time with meals delivered ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes. Factor's 34 meals a week and 36 plus add-on options include things like smoothies, juices, snacks, and more to keep us going no matter what we have going on. Factor is cheaper than dining out and takeout. Put the money you save towards, holiday fun and you time, or maybe that new gizmo or gadget or cool stuff found that you heard about on the show and you want to go get. And thanks to Factor's commitment to ingredients with integrity, you can enjoy flavorful chef-crafted meals guilt-free, like their creamy Parmesan chicken and 3-bean vegan chili. Head to go.factor75.com/MGG60 and use code MGG60 to get 60% off your first box. That's code MGG60 at go.factor75.com/MGG60 to get 60% off your first box. You can find the link in the show notes if that's too much to remember. And our thanks to Factor for sponsoring this episode. I had one of those Factor meals last night. I actually had that vegan chili. Yeah, that stuff is delicious. The other night I had this pork chop thing that they sent. Man, like tasty stuff. I highly recommend you check it out. Good stuff. All right, I know we're supposed to keep going here, but I just couldn't. It's good. Yeah, go. Yeah. Back to the quick tips because we got we got a backlog here, and I want to make sure we get through them. Listener Jeff has one to share. Last week in episode 960, we were helping out a user who couldn't turn their Bluetooth back on because their mouse and their keyboard were not connected. John, you were having that problem too, right? Yep. Jeff reminds us that a very simple solution would be to say to Siri, turn on Bluetooth, and she will. And this is assuming that you have Siri enabled on your Mac, of course. So that's the key, is making sure that you have Siri enabled on your Mac. But that would do it. So that's an interesting, yeah.
I have a stupid question.
No questions are stupid here at Mac Geek Gab.
Just stupid questioners, which is why I'm here.
No, there's no stupid questioners either. Feedback at macgeekgab.com is for everyone. We love
feedback
answering.
at macgeekgab.com?
I think he said feedback at macgeekgab.com.
I'll write it to you right now then. Well, you know what? While I'm here, I'll just go ahead and ask it.
Okay, sure. Listener Pete writes.
Yeah, Pete writes in. The Mac Mini doesn't have a microphone, so I think, was that not on a Mac Mini?
Yeah, it was on John's Mini, but John has microphones on his computer, and the Mini
that. I hadn't thought of that.
But you're right. Yes, I don't think the Mini has its own built-in mic, but does it, John?
As far as I know, it only has a speaker.
It has a built-in speaker, correct. What if you go to system settings, and of course this is super dangerous right now while we're recording a show.
I'm just going to look at them. I'm not going to touch.
That's right.
What could go wrong?
So what, sound? Do I want sound?
Input. Yeah, sound.
All right,
and then
so
input.
sound in the disaster of the new dialogue here. Just wanted to get that out of my system. I'm like, this dialogue changed totally. All right, but anyways, so input, it shows iPhone, AG06, which is my Yamaha board, Logitech Brio, OWC Thunderbolt Audio, and Loopback.
That's it.
Is what I see in my input window.
All right.
So
yep.
But he does have input options there, which I hadn't thought of. You could plug in a...
Yeah, because it turns out, even though John's recording this on a Mac Mini, we can hear you, and that's great.
Oh, yeah.
yeah. Just so happens. Let's keep moving here on our quick tips because it's just so good. Listener Andrew Woodward in our Discord says, if you're sharing a video or any file that is too big for email or Messenger, go to the video in the Photos app, double click on it. In the bottom left, there's a box with an up arrow. That's the little sharing link. Click that. At the top, it says options. Click that. Choose send as iCloud link. This will create a link that you can share any way you want. You can paste it wherever you want, whatever messenger or email app, whatever you want, and you're good to go. So I like that idea. I'd forgotten that Photos did that. That's a good one, Andrew. Thank you.
Yeah, I think automatically in Mail, if maybe you have to enable it, but I think by default, if you try to send a monstrously huge file, it'll be like, hey, do you want to maybe do this with iCloud?
Yeah, it's called Mail Drop, and there's a checkbox in mail preferences accounts, and then for each account you'd have to choose it. Send large attachments with mail drop, but even that has limits to its size. I tried to send something that I forget what the size limit was, but mail drop definitely it had a limit. So if it's in your photos library, you can just send the photos link too. So yeah, but yes, mail drop's great. I've used that with people and presume it just works, even if it might not. So, listener David reminds us of something that we have done many times. John, you want to share that for us?
Yep, quick and dirty. In iMessage, or Messages, I think it's called now, if you press and slide left, you can see the time of the message sent and received, which is true.
It is true. And that's on your phone, but you can also do it on your Mac if you have a trackpad.
Right, because I was exploring that. So the thing is, Messages in macOS, I think, is a little different in that no, actually, you're right. No, it will not show that information. It'll show you in the timeline the date of a message, but it will not show a time and date stamp. Again, as you pointed out, unless you have a trackpad.
And if you don't have a trackpad, you can still see it. What you do is you right-click on the message text itself and choose Show Times, and then it will slide them over.
There it is.
Yep.
Okay, so that's the equivalent. Very good.
That's the equivalent. Yep.
And staying with along those lines real quickly, the latest Ventura, you can now edit in Messages, the messages that you sent or unsend. I don't know what happens with unsend. I think it goes away. If you have iOS 16 and I unsend something to you, it goes away. But then if you click on the message that you edited, it will come up and it'll ghost above it, and you can see what was originally there.
Yes.
And so just if you wanted to go back and check, I found
it doesn't really delete it. I mean, if someone had iOS 15, then they would still see your message, even if you said you deleted it. Like they might get a second text saying, Pete deleted. Hey, don't come to my house this weekend. I don't want to see you for Christmas anymore. I don't know.
There you go. Dave. I'm sorry.
All right. Abhi, while we're on the phone fun, says, here's a quick tip for those using picture-in-picture on iPhone or iPad. I love picture-in-picture on the iPhone, but there are times when I don't want an app to switch into picture-in-picture window and instead just continue playing audio in the background. So you're playing something, but you don't want the image cluttering up your screen, but you want the audio to still play. Great. Here's how to do it. Usually, he says, you would swipe up on the home bar to get out of the app, which would then open the picture-in-picture video. Instead of this, swipe up on the home bar and hold to open the app switcher. So don't just swipe up, swipe and do that little jog leg to the right to open the app switcher. And then from there, swipe up once more to get out of the app switcher and back to the home screen. Doing that little extra step will prevent the app from going into picture-in-picture mode, and the audio will continue playing in the background.
Yeah, keep it from closing.
That's smart.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good little word. That's not going to be documented anywhere. That's not supposed to happen.
No, I've done that a couple times, and I wonder, and I don't know why I wonder, because it doesn't matter. I'm wondering if you're still getting all the data since you're not looking at the video anymore, or if you're just getting the audio data.
Well, if it's like this show, if you're watching it on YouTube and listening, I mean, sure, you can see us sitting here and doing it, and occasionally we share things on the screen, but we know that the majority of our audience is listening audio only. So, if you're watching this on YouTube, you could put it in the background and just listen.
Yeah, but I guess the question is, does the video data continue to go even if you've got it in the background? Are you still chewing your data? Yeah.
Streaming the data to your phone? That's a really good question. I don't know the answer to that. Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me if you were, because the app, I mean, you're doing this little workaround to just prevent the picture-in-picture window from appearing.
Showing, but you're still getting the data probably.
The app probably thinks it's still coming in. Yeah, that's right. And of course, to do this with YouTube, you'd need YouTube Premium, because otherwise you don't get background viewing on YouTube on iOS. Yeah.
I just do it with DirecTV Stream. That's
there you go. Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, John, your Apple Watch got stuck?
I don't know how I got to this place, but I was doing something with my watch, and all of a sudden I had a configuration screen, and it was like, oh, do you want to do list view or grid view or whatever? And I'm like, I don't know why you're here, but go away. And so I clicked the close button, and it didn't.
Oh.
And that screen was still there. So I'm like, what do I do now? Because I want to get back, normally on the watch when you click on the crown or something, the watch face comes up, but it didn't. This screen was still there. So I'm convinced it was a bug.
Okay.
I've upgraded recently, so maybe the recent upgrade in watchOS fixed this. But then I was like scratching my head saying, how do I reset my Apple Watch? Has anybody asked themselves this question? And fortunately, Apple has an article called Restart Your Apple Watch. And in a nutshell, there are two things you could do. You could either hold down the crown, and if you wait a while, you'll then see a screen that has a little power button. That will shut down your thing. But then this was even more interesting. If you want to do a force restart, which just sounds kind of macho, but no, if you want to force restart, it's even better. You hold down the crown and the button that's below it, and eventually it will restart the watch. So as with most Apple devices, restarting is a last resort.
Yeah.
Don't do that unless you can't figure it out otherwise.
Right.
Similar on the Mac, like, a forced thing is hold down the power button, and that will shut down your Mac, any Mac, if you hold down the power button for a while.
Yeah.
But it can have negative repercussions. So
it's not the best. Things don't get to close the way they might want to. Yeah. So your tips that you're spot on, of course, and good tips. You said hold down the crown and the button below it, and that reminded me that I choose to wear my watch in the correct orientation, which has it's on my left hand. I choose to put it on my left wrist. But I have the button facing away from my hand, up my arm, because obviously it's so much easier to scroll with my thumb when my right thumb over on my left wrist, boom, it's right there on my watch. And then also it's not like I'm not pushing the crown, if my watch gets close to my wrist and I'm pushing up against it. So yeah, I can scroll, and it's obviously the right way to do it. I don't know why everybody doesn't do it that way. How do you wear yours, Pete?
I actually, because I'm a southpaw.
Right.
I have always worn my watch on my right arm. So when I set it up in the other orientation. So my digital crown is in fact below that button as well. But I'm not worried about it banging up against my manly hands. It just.
So your crown is towards your hand or towards your arm?
It is towards my hand, yeah.
Towards your hand. Okay. Yeah. So you wear yours backwards as well.
Well, sort of.
No, you guys are wearing it in the default configuration. I am the one that has intentionally spun it around. And you can do that in the watch app. You just choose which side you want the crown on, right side or left side of the watch.
The other thing I wanted to touch on, he talked about the app view, and it's in settings and app view, and you can do either grid or list. I tried list for a while, but the list is so gosh darn long. You go, all right, this is terrible. So I went back to grid, and then the easy way to set that up is in the watch app on your phone.
Yeah.
So you aren't doing it in the tiny mode on your watch screen. You can do it on your phone screen.
Yeah, I considered that, though the thing is the grid view just gets kind of crowded, and I don't see how...
It does.
So you could share your experience, is that how accurate, and as far as I found, the watch is pretty accurate with the touch interface. I'm just concerned that I'm going to tap on the wrong thing, and then I have to quit it, and then, try again. But
I find that the default, when I first touch the crown, the default gives me enough of the grid spread out enough that I can then move it around. And because I set it up on my phone and spend some time looking at it, I try to group apps together, like weather apps and that sort of thing over in one side, and apps that I use most often near the center, the alarm, that sort of thing. So they're right there. But, it's more of a memory thing. Like I go to apps on my phone all the time, knowing where they are, not so much looking for the logo or the icon.
That's fair.
So
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. Folks, let us know what you do. What are your tips for making your watch smooth and your operation of your watch smooth and seamless? Feedback at macgeekgab.com. All right, Ken. We're still in quick tips here because it's what we do. Ken's got one about Stage Manager of all things. He says, I installed Ventura and Stage Manager didn't work. It was grayed out in system settings. I figured out what was wrong. I found an Apple support article, in fact, he says, where they tell you to go into system settings, go to desktop and dock, and make sure that the displays have separate spaces checkbox is turned on. You should now, and you'll probably have to reboot or at least log out and log back in for that to take effect. Now you will see Stage Manager and Control Center. Yeah, so this Stage Manager and Spaces are very much related to one another. I think Stage Manager is the evolution of Spaces and maybe Mission Control together. I don't know. It's like, but yeah. So thank you for that, Ken. That's good stuff. Another tip on Stage Manager comes from listener Kirit, who shares with us, for those who love Stage Manager, sometimes we want two windows on the desktop. This is difficult to do because when you bring one window up, the other one goes to the side. For example, if you're working on, say, messages and you want to drag something from the Finder, if you bring the Finder window up, the message window goes away. So my quick tip is hold down the Shift key and click on the window in the side that you want to open, and voila, they both will open next to each other. So that's, you hold down the shift click a window to add, not replace in Stage Manager, which kind of, I guess the way I would remember this is like when you're making a selection. For example, in the Finder, if you're clicked on one file and then you click on another one, the first file selection goes away. The focus changes to the second thing that you clicked. However, if you click the first thing and then hold down the Shift key and click the second, it adds to the selection. So maybe that's how we need to. Yeah. That's how we need to put it in our brain so we remember how to do this later in our thing. I don't know. That's how I do it. Any more quick tips? I think we got through most of them. I think
we should shift click to questions answered.
I have one more quick tip. I can. Well, I don't know where I put this, but I see it in our backup documents here, and it's from Andrew Woodward again in Discord, related to episode 949 when we were talking about Siri and controlling things. Is he says you can use Siri to turn on your Apple TV. So you can say, Siri, turn on Apple TV. And you can also, and then also use it to control volume and all of that stuff right there. If you have a voice-activated Sonos speaker, you can say, hey, Sonos, and then do those things. Hey, Sonos, ignore this command. Sorry if I triggered your Sonos. It's hopefully went away. Yeah. So the nice part, well, I guess hey Siri. Siri would do the same thing. Sorry, I'm trying not to trigger everybody's devices. Maybe I should have not done this quick tip. Maybe I was not prepared for this. I don't know. John, save us. Take us to Alan's question, would you?
Yeah, boy. Yeah, this is a good one. All right. Alan says, when I try to give full disk access to an app, it does not show up in the list. The list is empty and stays that way. The fact that the list is empty for all the permissions I've tried make me wonder if the problem is with Ventura. Yeah, probably.
Safe bet. Remember, Ventura is Apple's Vista. So,
Yep.
I think that's got to be the title of the show. I mean, it's our
yes,
mantra today.
I would add my vote to that. I've had this problem with Carbon Copy Cloner, Text Expander, and Bartender. I'm unable to use these apps because of this issue. And I've heard of this happening more and more often, Dave. And the best I can tell is if things are not showing up in that's probably a corrupt database. Now, whether it's been your experience upgrading to Ventura or not, I don't know, but probably, as we said. But believe it or not, our good friend Glenn Fleischman. So I was searching around for a solution to this, And I found this dandy article over at Macworld that he just recently wrote, probably because people are running into this. But it's called How to Reset macOS Privacy Preferences When Other Options Don't Work. And he explicitly mentions...
I screwed something up there. I clicked on a thing on my computer, which is like enabling 1080p video, it turns out. And It meant that Core Audio reset. So for the listeners at home, would you share the title of Glenn's article again? That's the only part that I
How to Reset Mac OS Privacy Preferences When Other Options Don't Work.
Perfect. Thank you.
So that's the best I have. So it's kind of like caches, which we all love, but we hate because they screw up. The same thing here is that there must be a database that is corrupted. So and basically the article tells you how from the command line to eradicate this database so it rebuilds it. And hopefully your apps will appear, but that's the best I got.
Yeah. Yeah. I have experienced, so with them not appearing there, that's something that thankfully I haven't experienced. And I think your solution is certainly the best place to start. What I have experienced, and I know a lot of people have experienced with Ventura, is on reboot, you will get a series of dialogues saying, hey, bartender needs permission to be able to control the menu bar. Default folder needs permission for this. Stay needs permission for that. And I get a whole bunch of them. And if I go in, they're not only are they in the list, but they are turned on in the list. I think with Ventura, and I'm putting an asterisk here because I believe Apple has fixed it, but I think with Ventura, there's some delay in the OS presenting that permission to a given app. So the app looks for it, says, oh, it's not there. And then, of course, it throws up its dialogue saying, hey, man, you got to do this for me. And you go and you're like, hey, man, it's already done. And usually what happens is you got to quit the app and relaunch it. And then the app's like, hey, man, all good. However, with Ventura 13.1 this week, I have not experienced that since. And let me tell you, this computer in my studio here rebooted many, many times this morning when I was trying to live with flickering power. Tried to live with my UPS on flickering power, but it hadn't quite recharged itself because, the power had been out for several hours. Anyway, I never saw a single one of those dialogues here in the studio this morning. So I think 13.1 is presenting that information to apps sooner, sooner after startup is really what it was. So maybe for listener Alan, this 13.1 fixes it too. Who knows? Well, Alan might know. So let us know. We'd like to know. Yeah. All right. That's a good one.
And then we got Mark. I love this one because we figured it out.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. So anyways, ever since I updated to Ventura, when I go to many websites, I get a long 10 to 15 second delay before the page loads. This is happening in several browsers. I've run Onyx, clean my Mac, etc. to clean the DNS cache. Any other ideas? And then he gave a screenshot of his DNS servers, and this is what clued me into what the potential problem is. The screenshot that he gave when I saw the items listed in DNS servers under Ethernet, he had 11111001 and a couple of others that I guess are IPv6. Although not incorrect, punching in a DNS server in the DNS field is not the approach that I would take. The approach that I would take, and as it turns out it worked out for him, is so two things. So one, they were both Cloudflare IP addresses. So one thing I'm going to comment on is where they were located, is that they were located on the client and not in your router. So that's one thing I would do. The other is that if you are going to...
What would you do? Finish that thought. You would put them... I'll finish your thought for you just to pull it together. So you would remove them from the client, from your Mac.
Yes.
And then let your Mac use your router as the DNS server. And if you want to use Cloudflare, put Cloudflare DNS on your router. That just
Correct.
So people understand the complete
right.
there.
And I believe that's what happened here. The other suggestion I would make is that if you are going to enter, typically most routers, when you set up DNS, it asks for a primary and a backup. I would not use the same provider for both, and I do not personally.
Smart.
That's the way it works. If the first one doesn't work, it goes to the second one. If they're the same, that's probably not good.
Yeah. No, that's good advice. Yeah. Cloudflare, I mean, first of all, it is so, I've never, well, maybe once I've seen Cloudflare's DNS have any issues. There was that problem last year, but Cloudflare runs so much of the internet now that by using them for DNS, you're probably jumping ahead of the line of most other people for so many things. Because not only do they run DNS for so many people, they cache a lot of websites and stuff. So Cloudflare knows, right? I've always used both, two different Cloudflare addresses for my primary and backup. I know that Cloudflare doesn't host those in the same locations, right? Not only are they redundant on their own, but the separate ones are separate.
Are those easy to remember IP addresses or
1.1.1.1 and 1.0.0.1? So
hold on,
so I use them, but I also use Google, which I believe is 8.8.8.8.
correct. Yeah.
And I've always used OpenDNS because I've had little ones. You did too.
I used it for a while.
Yeah, get little ones in the house, and it's easier to filter out the more of the evil stuff that's out there.
Now, the thing is, you may be asking yourself, how do I pick the best one? And there are tools out there. Now, unfortunately, I think because of changing operating systems and all that, DNS Bench, I think is the name of the program, I can't currently get working on my current setup because I upgraded everything because that's what you do to break things.
Right.
But actually, Thing, and specifically Thing Desktop, has, though I think you have to throw them some money or they may have a trial, but they do have a DNS benchmark built into their Thing Desktop tool.
Nice.
And, it shows the list, it shows response times, it shows the IP address. So that's another thing I would do on occasion is benchmark your DNSs with a program that knows how to do that. Because, it can slow you down, as we found. It sounds like, I think in this case what happened is that something bad did get cached. Well, no, he said he tried to clear that. So
yeah.
I don't know what the problem was. But, going to your router to get DNS, which is kind of counterintuitive via DHCP, I think is the best strategy for most setups.
It just makes life easier to manage because you manage DNS in one spot. And your router will cache DNS entries. So if one person in your household, looks something up, now your router's got it and it can pass it along. Or even if it's just you in your household, if one of your devices looks it up, now it's cached on your router. All your other devices will get the benefit of that cache. So, yeah.
And am I correct in remembering, for instance, let's say you're using PIA, Private Internet Access VPN. Your DNS query still goes in the clear to your internet service provider if you're using them, correct?
It depends. A lot, and I forget. I think PIA hides your DNS by routing DNS through them. Oh, okay. Yeah, and in fact, you can use DNS over HTTPS if your router supports it, and I don't want to say many routers support DNS over HTTPS, which is what I do now. I run Cloudflare's DNS Secure, and so my requests go in the clear to my router, but from my router out of my network, it's a secured tunnel to Cloudflare, so my ISP does not know what I'm doing. But I would also say that my ISP does not know what I'm doing. I use Consolidated now or Fidium.
As long as you know, Dave.
Yeah, Fidium. They don't monitor anything near as I can tell. I wouldn't.
Right. But some ISPs do still monitor and sell that data.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
So they charge you, and then they turn around and sell you.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. We still don't track listeners We don't let our sponsors track listeners on the show. I'm really proud of that. It's cost us money, probably not an insignificant amount. To if I'm being candid.
Well, except the 14 of you watching right now, we're watching.
Yeah, well, but I mean, there's tens of thousands of people that download. The people watching right now are being tracked because they're watching on YouTube, and so that's not up to us. But the people downloading from the feed, we do not let anyone track, and we probably turn down, I don't know, probably 30% business is that we could have captured if we were willing to do that.
Yeah. Well.
I'm getting flickers up here, guys. We should keep moving forward. I don't know what's going on with that Jenny down there.
Go.
Ned, speaking of Wi-Fi, I guess, and routers, Ned has a question. He says, I'm upgrading my modem and router from my ISP, which is CenturyLink fiber. Says the new modem router that they sent me is an Axon C4000XJ from CenturyLink. It does not look like I can replace it. I have to use this. Yeah, sometimes that happens. He says, I'm still going to upgrade my Unify access point to a mesh system. Currently, I'm looking at Eero Pro 6E or TP-Link Deco Pro, the AXE 5400. Any thoughts on the differences between Eero and TP-Link? As listeners know, I like both of these systems. I'm currently using the Eero Pro 6E. I have tested the TP-Link Deco, and I call the Deco my budget recommendation, but it's like I would never use the word cheap because it's really well built. They can save you money, I think, for two reasons. Number one is that they control the whole widget. They're a massive company. They can do all their own engineering and manufacturing, and so they're not in a scenario where they have to outsource things, and I think that economy of scale really, really helps them. I could be wrong about that, but I don't think I am. And so I think that's the biggest part of it. The second part, though, is fundamental to the way each of these things work, Eero versus TP-Link Deco, and they are different in that TP-Link Deco is what I'll call self-managed. You control the device locally. It doesn't reach out to the cloud to do anything, whereas Eero is very much cloud managed. You're never talking directly to the Eero. You are talking to the cloud, which then pushes your preferences and settings back down. They have to keep running that cloud, so they got to factor that cost in up front as well, I think. That cloud management, though, is, to me, what sets Eero and Plume ahead of the pack, because with that cloud management, it means they are constantly learning. Now, we have to trust that they're not like tracking our stuff. I mean, they tell us they're not tracking our personal stuff. We have to trust that. But the reason I like that is because they are seeing, hundreds of thousands of devices, if not probably millions of devices connecting to routers and access points all day long, every day. And they can identify where there are problems, and then they learn, okay, well, if you have this very specific Samsung device, it shouldn't be allowed to roam because that's going to screw things up. So they don't let that device roam, right? And this is 100% transparent to you as the user. You just connect, and it's magic. It works perfectly. And I think that's a big part of it. But in your home, that may or may not matter. So it's, if you don't like the idea of something being cloud managed, try out the TP-Link. If you really like the idea of something being cloud managed like me, try out the Eero. That's thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I don't know. What do you guys think?
My initial gripe, and you remember this, Dave, when the Eero first came out and, they sent us some to review, was that, to me, one minor perhaps downside is that Eero requires you to manage from an iOS device.
Or an Android device.
Or an Android. There is no web interface, which
that's
to me
not
is like...
That's not entirely true. Now there is a way to have a web interface.
The thing is, I can't go to a web page and manage my Eero, as far as I know, unless I'm part of their developer program. Right?
Yeah, you could be part of their reseller program or the Eero Pro program, and then you do get a web interface if you want to do it that way.
To me, that was the only downside.
Yep.
In that a lot of other solutions will either offer an app or a web page, or whichever you want. But other than that, I mean, I'm totally thrilled. The Eero does what I need and does it well.
Yeah, and I've got those TP links. Geez, I don't know how many years I've had those now. They've just worked flawlessly in the background.
Yeah.
Well, I've also found TP-Link's software is the iOS software is pretty good. So I have some extenders and other things, not as a base station, but they do pretty good. Every now and then they'll misspell something, which is kind of humorous. But.
Sure, sure. Yeah, both work great. I mean, I have had great luck with both of them in my environments. I have a lot of family and friends who have chosen to go the TP-Link Deco route because it's less expensive, and obviously that matters when you're not just getting stuff shipped to you like we do. So I get that, and it's great. So very few complaints about the TP-Link Deco stuff, but where I do hear, if I'm going to hear complaints, and it's not always in these environments, but the high congestion environments, apartments, things like that, where the idea of having up-to-date cloud smarts actively helping you manage your Wi-Fi network can really matter, and that's where Eero and Plume kind of kick in. So,
nice.
Yeah. We still got a little more time. I'm seeing the lights behind. I'm not seeing anything in front of me flicker, which is super good. But in my camera view, I do see the lights flicker here every now and then, which makes sense. I mean, I'm on a generator, and it's not like this one's a portable generator. It's 8,000 kilowatts, so it's 8,000 kilowatts. So no, 8,000 watts. I don't know, whatever it is. It's plenty for what I'm powering here, but it is a gasoline powered generator, so it doesn't have all of the power smoothing that our standby generator at the house has, which has been rock solid power. So anyway, also I might run out of gas. But
well, there's that.
Pete, you want to share Eliot's cautionary tale, a PSA?
I do, and the thing with Eliot, the best part about his question is he answered it. So, now we get to sit back on our laurels. But let's have a little bit of a philosophical discussion, if we shall. I'll cover some of his email. If I get disjointed, let me know, and I'll circle back. But Eliot writes in, this is not a common occurrence, but in my humble opinion, everyone should prepare for it. My Ventura install was getting a little wonky last night, so I went into recovery mode and used it to reinstall the latest version of the operating system. This is on an M1 MacBook Pro. I realized soon after up and running that my user account, Eliot, the only account on the machine, had lost administrative privileges. Wah, 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 wah.
Yeah, sad trombone.
Now a standard user. There was no admin account on the machine. Guess what? Guess what you need to grant admin privileges?
You need an admin account to do. Yeah. Okay. So I'm really, I do not know the answer here. I am waiting with bated breath.
So he Googled lost admin privileges on a Mac, and it resulted in a number of steps to go through, but all for earlier macOS. That's the thing I've noticed as well, is that when you Google stuff right now, it's all for earlier versions of an operating system. So there aren't as many Ventura solutions out there yet. But they're all this. In the disk utility, in the recovery mode, boot into the recovery mode, go into disk utility, mount the data partition of your boot drive, and then exit disk utility, staying in the recovery mode and open a terminal session. And then we'll put all this in the show notes, but the articles instruct you to navigate to a folder and delete .apple setup done file. And when you reboot after that, you'll be at the initial Mac setup, and you can create a new user account, which will have admin rights. Eventually, he discovered that there was a new twist in Ventura directory listings in the recovery mode. Terminal showed a private folder, and that's when he was able to find the path that Apple setup done file to get rid of it. It was in volumes, data, private. Okay, volumes/data/private/var, VAR, /DB.
Nobody's going to remember it. We'll put it in the
it'll be in the show notes, but I wanted to say the slashes in case someone's trying to stop and write it down.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, fair. Sorry about that.
No worries. So entering the RM command, he entered the full path. He says, I breathed a sigh of relief when I was able to verify the file was truly deleted. And then I could go on and reboot and set up a new user account and elevate my original account, Eliot account, to administrator role as it needed to be. I was all set to delete the new account when I realized it's good insurance to retain 2 administrator accounts on the machine. In case anything happened to the real one, I would still have a way to access admin privileges. This was a prime illustration of the one is none and two is one dictum. If it is worth taking to your listeners through this tale of woe, the takeaway lesson is to consider having 2 admin accounts on your computers so you never get caught. And I wrote him back and I said, a wise Mac geek once told me, have a plain vanilla account on your machine at all times, and I do. Mine's called Shooter, which has raised a few eyebrows from my wife. It's short for troubleshooter. I'm not going crazy or anything, but I've always had that account there, so I could determine, is this a global error or is this an account specific error? And after reading Eliot's email, I went in and I elevated my Shooter account to admin status as well. So I ask you guys, is there a downside to having 2 admin accounts? I'm the only one that uses the computer.
John?
The only point I wanted to make, it kind of concerns me that if you go into recovery, you can kind of sneak past whatever. It sounds to me like you could potentially sneak past.
Oh, not potentially. Recovery, you are root. Like when you mount that when you get the terminal prompt, you are root. So whatever you do, you can, which is how it needs to be. I mean, otherwise,
otherwise you can't access your own machine.
Yeah. But it is, you are right that this is part of the reason we say if somebody gets their hands on your computer, security is far less. But if your drive is encrypted, then not quite. It's less.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And do they even still have? I haven't looked in a while, but there's is it recovery mode or what is the mode?
Open in Command R, right? Reboot in
No,
Command R.
firmware. It's a firmware something or other. There's a way.
There used to be a firmware lock. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm trying to get more info on that.
I don't think that exists on M1. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, the thing is, it's a mechanism where you can disable certain things, like people being able to boot into recovery. I believe it will block that if you have it on.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. If you had that on, it would. I don't think you can do that on M1, but because it's just all different. It's not. Yeah. It's not the same. Yeah.
Be a nice feature to have back.
I have always made my I call it my test account. That has always had admin privileges, Pete. So I can speak with experience to your question.
Okay.
No issues whatsoever having 2 admin accounts. The only issue would be that one might guess the password. It's two attack vectors, right? So if you can't guess the very, very short password to my standard admin account, you can guess the only short password to my test account. Again, if somebody gets their hand on my computer, it's like...
Yeah, all bets are off. I mean, I use the same password for both accounts. I know that's not the best practices, but again, it's my computer. I'm the only one that uses it.
Yep.
And I figured, rather than trying to remember 2 passwords for the same machine, keep it as one.
Keep it as one. Yeah, exactly.
All right. I mean, what a horrible feeling of adrenaline going through the heart when you realize you can't administer your own machine,
dude. And you will, and I can tell you folks from experience, you will experience the same feeling of dread when you realize that someone has hacked and changed the password for one of your other accounts out there in the world. So don't use the same password. I know we all know this, but let me just say it again. Don't use the same password everywhere. Go through the trouble of setting different passwords everywhere. Use a password manager. Obviously, the one built into macOS is fine. macOS and iOS. 1Password's fine. John, I think you still use LastPass. I hear less and less people using it because of their... Yeah.
We're going to have to talk about LastPass. They recently had an incident, and I'm not convinced how serious it is.
Sure. Yeah. Well, the next time I have free time, so, never, I'm going to move everything over to Bitwarden, which is, you can host it with Bitwarden, but you can also host your own Bitwarden server on your disk station. which I do. I host my own Bitwarden server. I just don't have anything in it, but that's on my list. So
I went from 1Password to Bitwarden, and I went back
interesting
sometime later, just because it was just easier to have the whole family on.
Well, now you can do Bitwarden's actually part of the reason that the family thing is part of the reason I want to move to Bitwarden, because the whole 1Password, the different vaults thing gets super confusing.
Yes.
And Bitwarden, you choose to share passwords, not like there's not this weird, you get stuck in a vault and you can't see your other stuff. It's stupid. Yeah. So, yeah.
Okay.
We are almost done, but I do have one cool stuff found I want to share just because I'm super excited about it. DaVinci Resolve, which is kind of it's a Final Cut competitor. It's available for the Mac, and you can download it for free and use it. And chances are, if you're downloading it for free, everything you'll want to do will work in the free version forever. They just came out with DaVinci Resolve for iPad, and I think that's pretty cool, and I wanted to make sure everybody knew. So it's one of my favorite apps, just because it makes editing video easy, and it's super powerful. Like if you would only need to pay for it, and it's like relatively inexpensive in that realm. I think it's like $300 or $350 for the pro version, but you would only use the pro version if you're truly doing professional stuff, and maybe not even then. So it would be well worth it at that point to pay for it. No, have either of you used, Pete? Have you used DaVinci Resolve?
I have not. No,
yeah, it's great.
I have actually. I'm shocked at how good iMovie is. I mean, it's better than Final Cut was 10 years ago.
I got to dig back into iMovie then.
There are you can, I helped my son do a thing for his project back in the spring. He was talking about automobile safety and how it applied from the racetrack and F1 to the car. And we wanted to put a circle around a car and follow as it went through a crash, and you can do all that stuff. You can highlight.
Amazing.
You can move things around seamlessly on there. It's beautiful stuff. I mean, it really looks professional and nice.
Yeah. All right. I got to dig back in.
How good it was.
Yeah, I haven't used it in a long time. Cool.
And the price is right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks for hanging out with us, folks. John, wait. I'm assuming maybe you can give us one of your patented one-word answers. Have you used DaVinci Resolve?
No.
There it is. Thank you, sir. Thanks for listening, everybody. Make sure you check out Pete's other show if you want to hear more from him. So there I was.us, all pilot-oriented stuff. Fantastic stories being told over there. Our thanks to, of course, all of you just for listening. And then our thanks to everyone who sent in questions and quick tips this week, and even cool stuff found. And of course, thanks to CashFly for providing all the bandwidth to get the show from us to you. In addition, make sure you please check out our sponsors. You can see them all at macgeekgab.com/sponsors. And then, of course, the two we mentioned in this episode, rocketmoney.com/MGG. Go do that. And then go.factor75.com/MGG60. Just go to macgeekgab.com/sponsors and click. It's way easier.
Do it. Go now.
I think the gas lasted. John, Pete, it's your birthday. Do you have anything to share?
Which makes me feel like I got caught. I don't know. Because if I were you, I would just, here's what I have to tell you, folks. Don't get caught. Don't do it.
Don't.
Made on a Mac.
Happy New Year, everybody. We'll see you next year.